What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the vlog. My name is Filip Latocha, and today we're going to be talking about marathon bonking and the wall, and how to deal with it, how to avoid it, what kind of causes it, mostly from my opinions, my anecdotes, more or less. So, yeah, this will be an interesting topic. It was requested by a commenter and a frequent viewer of my videos on this channel, so we're just going to go right ahead with it. So, before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got lots of cool stuff always coming up. It looks like every other day so far, as it seems to be going. If you are a continued subscriber and watcher of the videos, thank you so much for your continued support. I love you all. Great stuff. Okay, anyways, cool. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, marathon bonking in a nutshell. Well, first things first, let me give my unofficial disclaimer, or my unprofessional yet legitimate disclaimer of the idea that I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an orthopedic of any sort. You should probably not be taking any medical advice from me. You could probably take some running advice from me because I have like years of experience in the sport. But I mean, again, yeah, basically just don't take any, professional medical advice from me because I'm not the person you want to take that advice from. So now that we got the weird disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it. So before we preface anything I tell you about how I handle bonking, let's make it clear that I officially recognize that my marathon PR is a 3:10 and 20 seconds, which was done at the Chicago Marathon in 2019. I have done, in my opinion, a shorter virtual marathon just this year for the virtual Chicago 2020 marathon, which I ran a 3:07. But again, the record books are going to officially recognize that a 3:10 was the legitimate marathon time, and I'm perfectly okay with that, for now, especially because, well, it is what it is, right? 2020's been a bombshell of a year, I guess you can say. So, that being said, let's talk about, I guess, the definition of marathon bonking, or at least the way I understand it. So, marathon bonking, as I understand it, or things like the wall, for example, are the points during the race where you're ready to stop running and turn it into a walk, or you just totally give up, or you start just basically crumbling and falling apart from the strategy you set before the race even started. So in some instances, like if you're trying to qualify for a Boston Marathon, your marathon pace typically should be like a 6:50 and above, in order just to break into that 2:55 3-hour range. I know that time like keeps getting less and less as the years go on, but whatever. That's kind of like your pace you would set as your goal, more or less. So, speaking anecdotally, like for the 2019 Chicago Marathon, for example, that was the pace I was set to go for in order to obviously qualify for Boston. And about halfway through the race, I started beginning my negative splits. I started them a little bit earlier than I was supposed to, which is perfectly fine. I ended up getting a half marathon PR at this point, running like an hour 29 at that point. But if you're looking at the math, starting at a 7-minute pace and then breaking into like the 6:40, 6:30 average pace range is a good look. That means you have a good chance of potentially sustaining for a little bit while and then trying to navigate yourself through the marathon wall, through the bonking, more or less. And ultimately during that race, what happened was about mile 20 to 21, things did get kind of bad. I was slowing down a lot. I was braking, but I wasn't bonking quite yet. It just, everything was slowing down a lot. I know my friends were texting me during my marathon. They're like, hey, listen, you need to literally go 10 seconds faster from your current pace if you're going to qualify for Boston, and a lot of psychological things going on there, more or less. But as you can see, 3:10 is where we ended up. I did bonk during this marathon big time, but I still PR'd, which tells you that it was a very insane effort, and it was my best marathon effort ever. But it wasn't really necessarily my favorite marathon of all time. My favorite marathon definitely was in 2018, where I didn't bonk at all. Everything went according to plan, and I ran a 3:26 at the time. It's not a great time, but from start to finish, I ran the entire thing. I had the perfect negative split setup. I think it was negative splits. I might have just kept on crumbling and crumbling by like hit the wall and like navigated through it. That's not the point. The idea here is that marathon bonking consists of two major factors. One, that's obviously your marathon / running endurance fitness and your mindset. And it's technically, in my opinion, I would say it's a 30-70 balance where it's 30% your fitness, 70% your mindset. Because technically speaking, anyone can finish a marathon. And I mean that like literally. Even if you're walking at like 3.5 to 4 miles per hour, that basically tells you can finish it anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of walking. Like it's obvious that like anyone can do it as long as you have the ability to just consistently keep moving in the race. I'm sure some people will feel some fatigue, some weakness. That's kind of where the mindset aspect kind of has to play into effect to prevent yourself from bonking, because the wall and essentially getting to that point where you're telling yourself you want to give up is the dark place of any marathon, any sort of race you get to, where your mind basically starts playing tricks on you. It just starts telling you like, hey, listen, we can walk for like 10 seconds right now, and we'll take it really easy. You'll stretch really quick, and then you'll be good to go after this. And in 0.0001% of those cases, your body is, your mind is correct. You'll like stop for a moment, you'll stretch, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, all right, cool, let's do this. But in every other instance that I've experienced where your mindset goes, hey, let's take a quick moment here just to like walk it off, let's stretch it off, you'll be okay, we'll pick up the pace again, you just need to give yourself some breathing room right now. Whenever this has happened, when you shut down the engine, you can't start it back up for more than like 10 seconds at a time. And this is where essentially the bonking is in play. So it's this idea that now you've turned your goal marathon pace into something significantly worse, if not almost unaccomplishable, because at this one particular moment, your mind has won the battle against your will to basically succeed during your race. And that is ultimately going to play out in, major negative consequences throughout the rest of the race. And you're going to get upset by the end of the race. You're going to be mad at yourself. You're going to be like, man, I had this one moment, this one chance to run a Boston qualifier, and I blew it because at mile 18 or mile 21 or mile 24 I decided to give myself a break because it just felt like the right play, when realistically you just keep moving, you just keep plowing forward, you fight with your mind, and you have to basically break that wall essentially in order to get past it. So I guess like one of the examples we can discuss, I suppose, is strategies for avoiding the bonk overall. So like I said, it's a 30-70 balance in my opinion. So fitness is very important with it, and like over time, gradually your slow twitch muscles do get stronger for your cardiovascular activities, your cardiovascular goals, endeavors, whatever they are, whether it be like the triathlon, the Ironman, a marathon, a 5K, you name the race, right? So hence the word slow twitch. It takes a long time for a lot of people to achieve their running goals. So like, for example, on race day, if you come up with this plan that you want to run a Boston qualifier and it's your first marathon ever and you don't have a whole lot of running experience, it's a tough sell for yourself, and the chances of you bonking are much greater than if you set just a goal like, hey, I just want to finish this marathon, assess the time that I receive, and then start gradually working for the next couple of years on breaking this time down. Now, that's one way of course, avoiding the bonk, is to make sure your mindset is correct for your race day. And then obviously as your goals get more intense and more focused on breaking the running time down to something like a sub 3-hour marathon or a 250 or 245, that's where your mindset is a lot more polished. Your slow twitch muscles at that point should be a lot stronger, and you should be able to piece those, two together, the mindset and your fitness, in order to achieve those goals a lot better. The fitness part of training, it is very easy to control, but like the outcomes, not so much. That's just something that takes time. So like you can run every single day. You can run twice a day, right? But the slow twitch muscles and like your entire body, it needs time and it needs patience from you in order to develop into becoming essentially the results you want for the rest of your life, if not for that particular moment in time, depending on your goals and endeavors. The mindset is the one element of any race day you have that you have full control of. And by that, I mean, it's something you can practice on a daily basis, whether it be, just giving yourself good vibes all the time, basically setting a mindset while you run, practicing this idea of, all right, let's focus on running 2 miles straight, or let's run a mile straight, and there's no stopping, right? You don't want to like stop to take a breather. You tell yourself maybe something dark, like, I don't know. So I know like in this one particular example many years ago when I was still working as a machinist, basically I had to do a 15-mile long run after my long day at work. And the mindset at the time, I don't remember the exact implications of it, but I like told myself something like, I wouldn't be good enough for like this particular girl I was trying to date at the time if I couldn't run that 15-mile workout that day. So like sometimes your mind kind of takes you to these dark places to push this extreme. And at the time, like, yeah, like that was the mindset focus. Like, all right, if we can do this, like, you have to look at it optimistically, more or less, of like, okay, if I can do this, like, I'm worthy of goal X, Y, and Z. Like you ultimately give yourself this pessimistic approach. Like you're challenging your mind, you're challenging yourself ultimately to kind of focus a more optimistic mindset throughout your activity. So you'll tell yourself maybe, well, this is kind of where the war of like your bad thoughts and like your good thoughts during a marathon ultimately start playing during the bonk per se, right? So let's say you're at mile 20, you're at the proverbial wall and your mind says, hey, look, you're not good enough to finish the last 10K of this race. It's better for you just to stop here, just quit entirely. And if you don't quit, just, start turning into a run walk. You're not going to make your goals, right? So this is the point where you have to tell yourself, like, listen, I guess to quote David Goggins on this, like, when you feel like giving up, you've only used 40% of, everything you got. I guess I'm, like, paraphrasing his quote, but as I'm saying, like, 30% of fitness, but you can argue, like, maybe it is 40, 60, whatever. The idea is, when you think you're ready to give up, you still have a lot in the tank. So the idea here is, when you think you're ready to give up, you still haven't even hit, your final form. Like, you can keep going. You can create an insane result from just staying focused, staying optimistic, and practicing that optimistic mindset. And there's obviously a couple ways of doing it. Of course, like I mentioned, like setting a mindset goal where you tell yourself something and you make this kind of extreme pessimistic deal with yourself, and then you try to take the optimistic mindset you have to fight it. Be like, oh, I'm not worthy of goal X, Y, and Z. Screw you. Watch this. And then you go and deliver the result you're looking for. That's a tough one. And again, that takes a very, I would say, flexible mindset in order to do that. Because a lot of people, I don't know if they can like balance this idea of like self-torturing themselves to practice fighting the dark side of your mindset, more or less. I feel like this is like becoming a stoner conversation at some point. It's very hard, not very hard, but it's like you have to be in the zone to kind of explain this, and like this is the only way I can explain it. It's like it's literally a battle of good and evil in your mind in order to fight the bonk, and that's basically what this is. Like you have to practice fighting the evil in your mind by letting it kind of soak in. And then you use the good in your mind, the optimism you have of, I can achieve these goals, I can break this wall, to essentially push back at it and, well, obviously accomplish your goals. So that's kind of, I don't know, that's the only real way I can explain it. Because when you're at the marathon and you get to that dark place at mile 20 and your body says, hey, you can't do this, or you can start walking now, it's cool. It's a trap. Like, you can't let that devil on your shoulder essentially tell you to stop running. it's not what you're supposed to do, and it's most likely not going to help you as a runner during the marathon, unless, like, I don't know, you just need to, like, clear something, like if you got to puke or something. And I ultimately say this because there are very few instances during a marathon where turning your run into a walk run or hitting a complete stop to do something and then picking your running back up again will ultimately benefit you. Like I'm telling you, it's like a 0.0001% chance that the dark side of your mind is correct on that. What you should be focused on is just constantly moving during the marathon, trusting the training you had, trusting that moving at any pace that's faster than walking is better than complete stop or turning it into a run walk. So even if your plan during the marathon was to run like 7:30s or 8-minute miles, and now you're turning it into like a 9 or a 9:30-minute mile, it's better than if you turn it into a 12 or 13-minute mile by turning it into a run walk. And then there's obviously some other elements of marathon bonking that we can discuss to avoid in the case of avoiding the marathon bonk. So like mindset is very big, fitness is a big thing. Obviously nutrition is very huge during the marathon. This is something that during your training you should be practicing in order to perfect, or at least get close to, just have a good base knowledge of, in order to help you prevent the 30% area of your fitness from collapsing to like becoming 70% of your issue and then 30% mindset, right? Because you ultimately want the war to be in your mind and not with your fitness. Because if you can't even get to the start line in good condition or in the physical shape to accomplish the goal you set in your mind, that's going to become a problem, right? So what do I mean by this ultimately with nutrition is, during my training, I learned that basically while taking goo gels, I have some over there basically, but like I would understand that during a marathon, it would be in my best interest to take 3 gels and then have a 4th one for emergency use only. So I know during my 2018 marathon, the plan was to take a goo gel, basically a goo gel every 40 minutes, and then try to take water for the first half of the run and then Gatorade during the second half. And that plan ultimately worked very well. And like while I was taking goo gels, even when I wasn't like hungry or thirsty, more or less, I knew that, again, this is a mindset thing to follow through, where your body wasn't quite sure of what was going on and your brain thought, oh yeah, we're good, like just keep doing what you're doing. But you understand from that 30% in your training that if you want to avoid that dark side of your mindset, you've got to push the nutrients into your body before it's too late. That's just obviously a given with any kind of race, more or less. But yeah, nutrition, very huge to stay on top of regardless of how you feel during the race, because obviously this is just, it is what it is. You have to stay on top of it. What else can we discuss with marathon bonking? I think this is just probably an optional thing for some runners, but music is a huge thing that I used in all of my marathons to basically cancel out the majority of my bonking. Now, obviously, this is an optional case because there are some races where you're just simply not allowed to use music. There's many circumstances where if things can go wrong, they will go wrong, kind of like in 2019 with my music set up early on in the marathon. Not a big deal. Basically, what the music is, I have my playlist set up in a way where like the music kind of starts, like the songs I usually start off with are not like high energy. They're kind of like these intro songs to kind of get you hyped up a little bit. And then the playlist kind of by like mile 10 to mile 15 starts getting a little more energy and kind of fluctuates. You have like some filler music in there just to kind of help you zone out through the race, and you kind of go through. And then by mile 20, you should have what you call the power playlist. And now it's usually a sequence of songs that you know in training you've used that you can run in the beat of these songs. Basically something to keep you just focused and in line. So like a good beat to a song that's basically your steps per minute will be super helpful during your run, because then you can keep that steps per minute as you're getting closer and closer to feeling like you're bonking. You're going to just keep powering through, and maybe there's something inspirational in the lyrics you hear, or like the melody of the song it just hits, you know. That's the only way I can describe it. It just hits you, and you have this like pure like shock moment where it's like, all right, here we effing go, and then you just send it. It's just a full send after that. I can give you guys maybe some playlist ideas. I'll see if I can like link them in this video of like power playlists I've created with like music that I've enjoyed over the years, and like how having these particular songs in this sequence that I like memorize the sequence of this music for would in a sense just like be that moment where my brain will go like, all right, next 15 minutes of music is just full send, let's do this, you know. So again, that's an optional one because not everyone likes to run with music. Not all races are music legal, so you know, it's a toss-up. But in most like marathon majors, I know like unless you're an elite athlete, like they're not really gonna drag you over like coals for running in music. But it is a very good tactic for, I guess, defeating the dark mindset you may have during your marathon bonk, and it basically just kind of doesn't silence those voices, but like you hear something else that won't necessarily let those voices get into your mind while you're running. You're just going to hear the music, you're going to focus on that, and that's kind of what the good voice will tell you. Just say, hey, focus on the music and you should be cool. So I guess this is going to be like part 1 to this video. If I get some other ideas of how to avoid the marathon bonk, I'll bring them up. But I think we'll just leave it here for now on some of my tips and tricks for avoiding the marathon bonk. The marathon bonk for a lot of people is inevitable, and it probably has to happen at least once to you so you understand how it feels when you bonk and how the dark side of your mind telling you, hey, it's okay to stop, and hey, you can like slow down to this really bad pace, ultimately will hurt you in the long run of the race and is actually not beneficial, and you will feel just like absolute garbage when you bonk. And basically, yeah, this is just kind of my thoughts on marathon bonking. So again, if you agree with some of the ideas in this video, definitely like the video, subscribe to the channel. Give me your comments below on some of your strategies on avoiding the marathon bonk. If you agree with some of my solutions, if I'm understanding the idea of avoiding the bonk correctly like everyone else does. Again, thanks for watching the video, and I will see you guys real soon.